Hello and welcome everyone. So in this video I will be talking about the interview experience of one of my student, and the company name was Deloitte. Total experience of the candidate was 3.5 years, and this was the technical discussion. I'm not going to share all the questions because couple of questions were very basic questions. So all the major questions I'm going to share. I will also be sharing the solution approach or the approach how you should answer those questions. But the major intention is to tell you why and what kind of questions were asked, and then you just need to make sure that you are on that level. Okay. So after the introduction, the first question was describe your project and what was your role. Okay, this was the first question. Now just after the introduction, whatever questions you get, I treat that question as a very important question, because most of the interviews make early impression about the candidate, and then rest of the time they just keep on asserting that impression. So if you make a very good impression in the beginning, in the first or second question, that will flow throughout your interview in most of the cases. So treat the first or second question with utmost respect, even though if that is just a refresher question or a very basic question, try to deal it with utmost care. Describe your project and what was your role. If that was the question, it also tells that you might not be able to tell everything about you in your introduction, which is okay. Like, we have to keep our introduction brief, so you might not be able to tell about your current project and what was your role in your introduction. That is why interviewer wants to know more about your current role, wants to know more about what you do in your day-to-day job, and then based on that he forms the next set of questions. Most of the interviewers do not prepare for the interview. They just take the introduction and whatever you have done, and then take the interview as it goes on with the flow. They do that, and that is a good approach also. So here what is expected from you is that you explain your project and what is your major role. Make sure you show, depending on what company you are giving interview. Let's say if you are in a service based organization, you're giving in a service based organization company interview, make sure that you show the all round performance you do in your current project. Like, it could be development, it could be development along with the deployment, testing. Make sure you also include the deployment and testing approach, how you decide the user stories points, how do you take this sprint overall, all those things as well. It is not only about the development, so just do not just focus on development, but also along with the other things as well, because project delivery is huge thing, not just about the development but also about the delivery, testing, deployment, support and everything. So make sure you include almost everything which you do in your current project and role. Okay. There obviously there will be couple of multiple cross questions here, so be ready for those as well. Second question was security model in Salesforce. Now this was an admin question, and this is a very important question. The problem I see with most of the developer is that when they get an admin question, they treat an admin question very lightly. Like they will just give one liner or two liner. Security model in Salesforce, they will just rush through it by telling, okay, we have object level, we have record level security and all those things, but they do not give the question the respect it deserves. Security model is very important. You can understand that Salesforce has its own certification on sharing and visibility, so security model is very important. It makes sure that your users are able to see what they are supposed to see, and the users who are not supposed to see something, they are not able to see something. So that is very critical thing. Okay, so make sure you explain it in detail. We have org level security, we have object level security, we have record level security, we have field level security. There are a couple of other additional security options like epic sharings as well. Okay, on org level we have IP access and all those shields by which we make sure that your org is protected and only the authorized user are able to access that data. On object level security, you have profiles and permission set. Make sure you explain this in detail, and if interviewer is not interested in such details, he will stop you right there and move on to the next question. But your approach should be explanatory rather than rushing through it. Okay, if he is interested, record level security has so many things. So WD, role hierarchy, manual sharing, criteria based sharing, there are so many things. So he will obviously ask cross questions if you will not explain properly. Okay. This was the theory part. Then there was a question on write a SQL query to find accounts with duplicate name. Okay, so from the name it sounds very easy kind of query, but then if you write it actually on a developer console or obviously in a Google Doc, then it is not that straightforward. You have to find all the accounts with duplicate name, so you cannot do it via a normal query. You will have to use the aggregate function, you will have to use the count, you will have to use the group by, you will have to use the having clause. So it is a very good query with 2-3 aggregate functions to use. So make sure sometimes and I'll give it to candidate if he's not able to write such query on a first go, but if you have practiced, then it is a very good query. If you write it, it will make a very good impression there. Okay, so I will put the query in the comment, but I request you to try it on your own. Then there was a question on write code to fire the custom event, and this was actually to write code, not just to tell the approach, but actually to write code. So make sure you write this code. There are two ways. One, by you just fire the custom event, and on the parent HTML you will write the on event handler. Or the second approach is where you will use the bubbles, and then on the parents JS file you will use the constructor to catch that event. Make sure you explain both the approach and then ask if he is interested in both the way, or if he just want to see the JS code from the child to fire the custom event. Okay, start with that. Keep on talking to interviewer what he wants you to write, and then keep on changing your approach based on that. Okay, this is make or break question. If you will be able to write this question, you will 80%, 80-85% be selected for it, because this is a make or break question for this interview. If you will fail to answer this, rest of the questions are obviously important, but then the impact of not being able to write this will be way higher than other questions. Okay, there was a couple of follow-up questions on this. Let's say there is one parent account and two child account. Parent is A, child are B and C. How will you communicate from B to C? Here also he will be expecting you to explain the multiple options, like B will fire custom event to A. So from B you will go from child to parent, and then from A you will pass the data via parent to child communication. That will be a better approach. There is another approach whereby which you directly communicate between the siblings via either the PubSub or the Lightning message services. So by which you will directly communicate between the siblings. Okay, that will not be that good approach, because you are bypassing the parent, which is not a very good way. So suggest both the approaches, but also tell that which approach according to you is a better approach. That will be better answer. Okay. Then there was a question about how to use wire versus imperative, or when to use wire versus imperative. Okay, so there are a couple of thought processes behind when to use wire versus when to use imperative. When we use wire, things happens automatically, automatic refresh happens and everything. When you want more control over what you want to see, when you want to see, then you go with the imperative, because that has a user intervention. When user will do something, then you will get the data. So depending on what is your need, you use wire versus when you use imperative. But if you want more control, if your data set is huge and you do not want that to be automatically refreshed on the page and everything, you go with the imperative approach. If your data set is normal and if you want to load that data on the page load, then you can go with the wire approach. The next question was how will you improve your code performance. Till now it was about LWC and couple of basic admin topics. Now interviewer came to the apex question. When they ask how will you improve code performance, this is another way of asking the best practices as well. Okay, but the better way to because he is specifically telling you the code performance, so they are talking about apex, not in general Salesforce performance. Okay, so there are so many best practices. You can even ask the cross question if they are looking for any specific kind of governor limit or in general. If this is in general, you will follow all the best practices. No query inside the loop, no DML inside the loop. Your transaction should be bulkified, and all those things. You should be using the asynchronous apex whenever you can. You should not be using the queries which are returning a lot of data. So anything which is related to hitting the governor limits, you will be avoiding that. You will be making sure that you have bulkified your code. You will be making sure that you are not doing any circular references. You are making sure that your triggers are not running in the recursion. You are making sure that your transaction is not so huge. If that is the case, then you are breaking the transaction. You should be breaking the transaction by going to asynchronous apex. If the data set is huge, make sure that I'm using the batch apex rather than going to the trigger or kubel apex, because the data set is huge. So anything which is related to hitting the governor limits, you will be making sure that you are doing it in an optimized manner, and by that way you will be improving the code performance. There could be a couple of cross questions when it comes to improving code performance. They can be very specific about, let's say, heap size issue. So there can be cross questions about what is heap size issue, how will you resolve heap size issue, or what is CPU timeout, how will you resolve CPU timeout. Then you will go in depth on that particular problem rather than generic Salesforce code performance related issues. I have created videos for both heap size and CPU timeout. You can find those videos on my YouTube channel. Then there was another question. I think I'm rushing through it. But I just don't want to make videos very lengthy. I want to give you the maximum value of your time if you're watching this. Can we convert a lookup relationship into master detail and master detail into lookup? This was the question. Now this is a very basic question, and most of the developer again make the mistake that this is an admin question and they will just rush through the answer. Yes, we can do that, or yes, we can do that, but we just need to make sure that if we are converting, then the data is there and all those constraints. This question deserves more respect. This question deserves a break, a detailed answer. One section for converting lookup to master detail and one section for converting master detail to lookup. Okay, so I want you to explain this in detail. When we convert lookup to master detail, we'll have to make sure that every child has a parent, because otherwise it will break the relationship. Okay, because that is mandatory thing. So you'll have to make sure that if you are converting a lookup to master detail, your data is intact. Okay, so existing data is something which you'll have to take care. Along with that, you will also have to make sure you're converting a lookup to master detail. So now your child objects visibility will be controlled by parent object, because now parent will become master. Okay, so in that case, make sure that the security considerations are taken care of and it is aligned with your requirement. The third point is there are limits in how many how many master detail relationships you can have on that object. So you also need to make sure that you check that limit, how many master details you already have, and then align with, okay, if you convert it, are you within the limit or not. So these are the things you'll have to take care whenever you convert a lookup to master detail. Now when we convert a master detail to lookup, that is relatively straightforward, but again you will have to consider the security thing, because earlier it was controlled by the parent, now your child will be independent of it. So make sure that you're aligned with the security thing. Plus, if there are any roll up summary field on parent and you convert that to lookup, then you'll have to delete those, otherwise it will not allow you to delete. Okay, so these are the couple of ways you can answer this. Make sure you especially for developers, if you are answering an admin related question, make sure you treat that question with utmost respect. Do not rush through the question. Salesforce is not about writing code, trust me, and interviewers are not only about looking for the code related solutions. They also wants to understand your overall approach of problem solving. So it is not only about coding or writing code, but give respect to admin related questions, because they are so basic yet so impactful. Okay, now I'm not saying that if I give the question, if I give this interview, I'll be able to all the questions, I will be able to answer all the questions in the perfect picture perfect manner. No, that is not going to happen. But whenever you get any question of your comfort zone or of your strong area, make sure you extract the maximum value out of it, because by that way only you will be able to shine in the interview. It is not expected that you should know everything, but then let's say if you're not able to answer the lookup to master detail related question, that will give a very bad impression that your basics are not clear, and that is it's a very bad thing. So I don't want you to make those mistakes, and do write LWC a lot. People are now asking writing the LWC code a lot. People are asking to write lightning message services as well. So understand that expectations are very high because there are so many candidates in the market, and do practice these things on either copy and pen or in the Google Doc, because that's what you will be getting in such kind of interviews. Thank you everyone. If you have any question related to any of the questions we have discussed, make sure you put a comment, and I'll be more than happy to answer. Thank you. I'll see you in the next video. Good day to you all.